Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're going to talk about how important it is to protect yourself from psychopathic or narcissistic triangulation. Triangulation is when a manipulative, controlling individual uses things like gossiping, splitting, talking about people behind their back, spreading lies about you, pathological insults that have nothing to do with reality but create a sort of derision and a sort of fear and an intimidation that really causes what we call dissociation or depersonalization, where this individual becomes so manipulative and their scorn, their malice, their malignancy is so severe and so strong that it causes you to doubt yourself. It causes you to second guess. It causes you to get paranoid. It basically gets you off of your rocker. It gets you off of your foundation. It gets you off of your trust of self. And they have won when they have perpetuated a cycle where you now begin to question and doubt yourself. This is the foundation and root of insecurity. This is what the narcissistic or psychopathic individual will perpetrate and essentially instill in those people who they have targeted as a victim. They will instill this in their mindset and continue to perpetuate this through what we call triangulation, splitting, and overall scorn for a malice behavior. Now, when we talk about splitting, it's when the individual will bring a third party into the mix. Just out of nowhere, they'll be bringing up this individual and talking about either how good they are, how wonderful they are, but it will be insinuating, in essence, an insult, a slander about you. So in other words, this person will bring up this person's accomplishments, how good looking they are, how independent they are, or some other quality that's meant to give you a jab. And so it's meant as an additional tool of the manipulative or controlling individual to further instill and root a sense of fear and intimidation within you. This is called triangulation. And it gives them an enhanced power to have power over you. And furthermore, instill this sort of backbiting, backstabbing dynamic in relationships. So it's very important to understand that this is a very typical textbook manipulation technique that psychopathic and narcissistic people will indulge in. And it's a very hideous thing, especially when you encounter it from people who are your family members, your spouse, a trusted friend, a trusted lover, who in essence you had given a lot to. You have invested a lot of your heart, your emotion, your confidence, as well as confiding a lot in them. So they might have specific things about you that you've only shared with them. And then also the special things that they have shared with you that you thought that was this, tight bond, the two of you guys meshing together here, unique from other people. Yet the psychopath in particular will have you believe that you are special, that you have confided in them, that you are their confidant, that you know specific and secret things about them that they haven't shared with the world. So they will create this little special environment around and cocoon around the relationship that you feel is sacred. Yet remember, nothing is sacred to the psychopathic individual. It is not meaningful to them to have this relationship. You are merely there as a momentary supply, almost like an intermission at a movie. You are there as their refreshment. You are there as their popcorn. You are there as their snack. You might be there as their filet mignon, but after they've digested you, they're on to the next. So the incidence of triangulation is very important to protect yourself against this, as well as the cognitive dissonance, the self-doubt that will be instilled in you as a result. Remember that self-doubt and denigrating of yourself, and then ultimately, if you're not careful, leading to self-sabotage, where because you feel so low, because you feel so divided, because they have created this atmosphere in this relationship that you're less than, people oftentimes then tend to react by sabotaging themselves and acting out of a lot of anger. And then this anger can take many shapes. It can take enabling behavior. So if you're angry at them, then you become angry at the world. And so then you become an enabler or a codependent, meaning to act out or to release my aggression and my anger, I'm now going to be a people pleaser and allow myself to be walked all over. And this becomes a form of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is when you start doing things to hurt yourself. This can be poor spending behavior, poor eating behavior, where someone is angry and so they have this like anger eating where they binge out on like copious amounts of sugar or starches or carbs or things like that just to numb the pain. Other people might binge out in drinking where they have to numb the pain through a lot of drinking or drugs or gambling or compulsive spending just to help fill the void and just to help them really sort of survive this triangulation. It becomes a very deepening hurt and deepening wound. And what I find most important to understand that this insulting, this berating, which is a manipulation tactic, it has nothing to do with reality and the real person that you are, but this is what this person is reflecting back to you. The controlling manipulative individual is trying to do this. And it very much is something along the form of ridicule. And I want you to pay attention to this because I think it's incredibly insidious, especially as these individuals get older and they tend to engage in a lot of ridicule. So when we talk about blame shifting, making someone a scapegoat, oftentimes, we see this triangulation, this splitting and the scapegoating take the form of ridicule. And ridicule is when you are basically pointing the finger at someone, ha ha ha, making fun of them in really the most unattractive of ways, where the subjection of someone basically or something to contemptuous and dismissive language or behavior. When you ridicule someone, you're subjecting them to contempt, to being dismissive. Just means like, talking down about them and just dismissing them as worthless. And when we look at the word contemptuous means showing contempt or scornful. And scorn is a very strong word, which is really what oftentimes the very angry narcissist or the angry psychopath will use, which is the feeling or belief that someone or something is worthless, despicable, or they have contempt against them. So to be despicable, oftentimes the way one is treated as despicable, which means in essence like worthless, like they're trash, even when it's like where someone would be spit on or treated with such harsh and traumatic disrespect. This can be a manipulative tactic, basically a projection, once again, from a psychopathic or narcissistic individual. And they will use this ridicule, this scorn, this contempt, this disdain, this despicable speech about people in order to grind them down and make them feel so ground down to the state of being nothing that they then have to come crawling back to the abuser. And in other words, please at least, please, give me some sort of life or support. I feel so ground down, and they have nowhere else to turn because they have been so weakened by this individual. And what I find very insidious in this triangulation is that oftentimes what the triangulation that is set up, and I really want you to pay attention to this, is that this sets the tone for other relationships. In other words, when you're so used to this and being hounded into you and ground into you and repeated, when you experience healthy relationships, they feel very uncomfortable. You don't know how to act. You don't know how to behave. You end up stumbling over yourself, stumbling over your feet, stumbling over your words, because you're like, here's somebody who's being nice to me. Somebody who isn't treating me like trash. This is very uncomfortable. I get a social anxiety. So realize that the root and cause of a lot of this social anxiety is rooted in this heinous behavior. And more so, what the other part of the dynamic then is set up from the abuser is the mindset that you should be so lucky as to have me to abuse you. Let me repeat that. Part of the mindset is you should be so lucky that you have me to abuse you. So that's part of the anger, part of the manipulation. In other words, it's saying they're coming from such an angry, hostile, violent place that they then project this onto you and make you feel guilty for even having them in your life, but yet they want you in their life to abuse. So they make you feel like you should be so lucky to be around them. And that is a manipulation tactic. And that is a lie. It is a pathological lie that they are projecting onto you. So you must realize that this oftentimes is the result because their life very much is a construct of lies. So I know that these are big concepts to think about and discuss, but realize that oftentimes when you feel this tension around the manipulator, this disdain, the piercing look, like you've just fallen into the abyss, because they're so angry at you and they're trying to just annihilate you with a look. Realize that that oftentimes is coming from the seed of somebody who is living by a pathological lie, and you're feeling the tension and from being around someone who has such deep-seated pathological lies that they will really fend off anyone who is authentic and genuine, because they know that they don't have that ability to be authentic and genuine. They have so much projected onto their life that they cannot tolerate to have the truth. And they also, like a viewer so astutely put, how do you think you can change these people? You just can't. This is the issue with triangulation. You need to protect yourself. You need to not get caught up in their triangle. You need to step away from the triangle, step away from them. Do not listen, do not look, do not follow, do not become involved with them, because it's going to trigger this pain, which is the issue here, oftentimes keeping you stuck from moving on. And realize it's important to get rid of them, identify the tactic that it is, which is manipulation, which is to keep you down, and that you aren't going to succumb to that. Make a quiet commitment to yourself to understand that that is a manipulation tactic. It is a control tactic. It is designed for them to create an outlet of aggression onto you, and you furthermore no longer want to step into basically their fire hose of lies. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.